Hope that's a big no.
I would like to call this meeting to order. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is a traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Ottawa, and Mississaugas people. Confirmation agenda of the Council of Township of North Huron hereby accepts the agenda for July 4th, 2022 council meeting as presented. Do I have a mover? Kevin Faulkner moves, Paul Heffer seconds. All in favor? Carries. Public comments. This is an opportunity.
Disclosure of pecuniary interest.
Oh, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Good one for me not to miss. I myself will have a pecuniary interest on 8.2 and will not be part of it. Is there any other councillors that have a pecuniary interest? Go ahead, Rick.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. 7.6.1, I have a conflict in regards to special events. I belong to a group, the Legion, which may host such events that we're speaking of in regards to events on the municipally owned property.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. 7.6.2 about the facade improvement grant. I'm related to said grant, or said applicant.
Thank you very kindly. Go ahead, Deputy Recite.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I will be declaring an direct conflict of interest to item 8.2 during the regular council meeting due to my employment relation with the applicant or the requester.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else? Not seeing any, we shall move on. 4 is public comments. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to speak to an item that's of business that's on the agenda. 2 minutes per person. Would anybody like to speak? Yes, sir. If you could come up to can you come up to the podium, please, and just give us your name and address?
Just name is fine.
Name is fine, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Sanders, the president of Wingham Minor Hockey, and I'm here representing Wingham Minor Hockey and the Wingham Junior C Ironman and speaking for the figure skating club at the same time. So I'll keep this into 2 minutes as quick as I can, I guess. Last February, we were sent a notice from North Huron saying they could provide ice for the month of April if there was a commitment of 35 hours per week. So that's just a summary of what we're going to go towards forward. In the last few years, in the month of September, in 2017, we used 70 hours for the month. Or is this per week?
That was
for the month. For the month, 2018, 75 hours. 2019, 75 hours. 2020, there was no ice, and 2021, there was no ice due to COVID. With Wingham Minor Hockey having approximately 21 teams this year, we'll be using at least 31.5 hours per week, with hopes of even getting more. The 31.5 is what we have used in the past per week, and wanting more ice, it wasn't available due to other ice users. We just received a call before we come in from another minor hockey organization looking to rent ice, because their facility's not going in until October. The Ironmen have committed up to 15 hours per week for the first 2 weeks, and the last 2 weeks of September, 10 hours of ice per week. That gives us just over 46 hours per week with just those 2 ice users. This is 11.5 hours more than what you're asking for in the month of April. There's still the Wingham Figure Skating Club and other surrounding hockey associations, like I mentioned, and other people that would rent the ice. Putting ice in October for our organization will set us back drastically for our kids. We need, because of Hockey Canada's new pathways, we need so many ice signs before tryouts, which is 2 to 3 weeks. So it's almost like a month process before we can get our teams picked. We were also a little disappointed that we weren't asked, since we're your biggest renter, what the thought was of the ice not going in until October. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. And lastly, looking online here, it says Goal 5 for services of the North Huron Strategic Plan is, our goal is to offer high quality and well-balanced services that create a sense of belonging, support community well-being, promote safety, and encourage healthy and active lifestyles. After COVID and with all the trouble a lot of teenagers, young kids are having mental-wise and not enough activity, we feel the ice not going in September is a drastic mistake. Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else in the audience like to speak? Not seeing anyone, we shall move on. Consent agenda. Before I call the motion, is there anybody that would like to pull anything out from the consent agenda to speak to? Go ahead, Anita.
Yes, item 5.2.2. That's the follow-up report from Dimitri about the Windham Area Health Professional Recruitment Committee. I would like to thank Dimitri. I'm the representative on the committee, and I would like to thank Dimitri for his very thorough and nice report. And it is, I would like to encourage everybody to have a look at the presentation and the statistics it's providing. The change in requirements from young physicians to settle in a community. For us as a council, it is really important and informative and will help us to improve and maintain current assets to the community that are potential for new residents and their families who are looking to settle in this community. So the presentation is really important, and I would like to thank Dimitri for the follow-up on that.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else? Not seeing any, then that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby adopts consent items 5.1.1, and further the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives consent items 5.1.2 to 5.3.3 for information. Do I have a mover? Chris moves, Rick seconds. All in favor? Carries. Sam Hewitt's retirement recognition. Samuel, if you'll come up here. Sam has given us 21 years at the as a landfill operator with North Huron. And Sam, you and I talk a lot of Saturdays, Sam. What am I going to do now?
I'll miss talking to you too then.
I'm going to get a little picture here if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind that.
Come over this way just out of the light.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome.
I'll tell you inside.
Oh, you're good. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Thank you very much. Again, on behalf of council, thank you very much for all you've done.
Oh, yeah.
We've appreciated
I
that.
enjoyed working there 21 years. Just socializing with the people and just, it's a great job. I hated to quit, but time's moving on, so.
I know that feeling, my friend.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very
And we'll
much.
see you Saturday. Okay. Moving down to item 7, the clerk's report department, there is no report. 7.2, financial department, no report. 7.3, rec, there's no report. 7.4, public works, we have no report. 7.5, fire department. Is there any questions on 7.5.1, the tower rental agreement with Blackburn Media, CKNX TV here? And that would be questions for Chad Krieger tonight. He's representing the fire station. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. Through you, Eve. Just a clarification on the agreement is just between North Huron and Blackburn Media Corporation for the tower rental. I was curious as to if Morris Trimbury was going to be using the facility at the tower as well. I know we were splitting the costs 50-50, but there's no mention of that in the contract. And I would like it stipulated, if that is the case, I would like it written that they are in a contract with North Huron, please.
I'm not sure whether that would be Deputy Reeve Krieger. Could you speak to that? No?
The agreement that we have, I guess not between the two townships, is they're paying half.
Yeah, but they're not in the contract.
Not in the contract.
So if they were not to, say if they were not going to pay, that we would have to come up with the money to fulfill it. And we've had that situation many times in the past, that they just decide not to pay and we're stuck with it. So I would just like to see it in the contract, or at least an explanation of why it isn't in the contract.
I'm going to turn to the CEO, Mr. Evans, and ask him if we should go through with this. How do you want to handle this? If it's not in the contract and we have a request for it to be in the contract, we turn down this motion, or what's the?
Well, you can defer. Council can defer a decision regarding the contract itself. In terms of the 50%, that would be between the two municipalities. I think what I'm understanding is the contract is between us and CCANX in terms of that they're going to get their money, for lack of a better word. And perhaps what Councillor Faulkner, in terms of what you're asking for, seeking is an agreement or something from Morris Turnberry confirming their commitment to pay that other 50%? Is that?
Yeah, if they were requiring us to sign a legally binding contract for the amount, the full amount of due, even though we may only be paying our share, there's nothing to, no liability for the other applicant in this process. I would much rather see it be a contract in Morris Turnberry and us have the ability to do what we will, rather than us being the ones that are only legally signing the document.
Yeah.
So there's two options. I think you could defer and have further discussions in terms of amending the contract. Or you could proceed in something to the effect that, subject to a commitment or some indication in writing from Morris Turnberry to their 50%. So we would get that before we'd actually sign the contract with CCANX.
And maybe the one thing I will note, so originally the agreement was dated July. It is now taking effect in September, so we do have a bit of time to clarify that here. But originally it seemed it was time sensitive, which is why it's included in as bylaw 72 of this agenda. But to my understanding, we do have the ability to bring it back for the next council meeting with a definitive answer, if that's what council wishes.
So, Councillor Faulkner, would you like a motion to defer?
Maybe just another point of clarification. If this contract with Blackburn Media is just for our participation off that tower, I'm okay with this contract. But if it's going to be a joint usage of the equipment, I would like to see it written in the contract.
Yeah, through your worship. So I would suggest perhaps deferral on the basis that it's not till the September 1st start date, so there is still time to have conversations in terms of how we set that up.
So you're going to put a motion forward for deferral?
I'll put a motion forward to defer until clarification.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Anita seconds. Last chance for conversation. Not hearing any. I call the motion. All in favor? Carries. Okay. 7.6, the Office of the CAO. 7.6.1 is a special events policy. Are there any questions for Denise Lockie on this one? Everybody's had a chance to read it. Are there anything pop up that we should be looking into? Not. Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yes, thank you, Reeve. I want to, make very good mention that this has actually been in the works for, I've been a counselor for almost 8 years now, and I would suggest it's been in the motion, in the agenda for probably 6 of those 8 years. So I think it is, an excellent document, and my comment is, just procedurally, how is it when a committee or wants to put in a special occasion, is the intent, or the special event, is the intent to hand them this package at the time of their request or the time of their scheduling of the facility? Or I'm just trying to understand understanding that this is very informative package, which, if we look at the number of pages as it relates to this document, is significantly large for a committee to enhance and figure out what's going on. My question is are we going to be just handing this out and hoping the things are going to come back in a realistic perspective, or is there going to be some kind of a guided process as to following through with this documentation?
Thank you. Denise, are you going to guide us through, or are you just going to hand it to them?
Through you, Reeve, to Deputy Reeve. So I think that's why the process has taken so long to try to figure this booklet out. It started very larger than this, and then it went scaled back to probably a 4 or 5 page that didn't say enough. So this has become a happy medium. It will not just be handed to special event organizers. I work closely with all of them. Hopefully even before special events, I know a lot of the special event organizers. So once this actually gets passed by council, I'll actually be going directly to them and handing it to them. So they're going to get a before the deadline of the first checklist and all that kind of stuff. And it's a good reference material. So I realize that it's a lot of material, and I realize that it references even additional bylaws that we have to go through and really try to streamline this process. But for right now, this is the minimum and the maximum that we could come up with.
Thank you very kindly. I would have to say, too, it's much easier to give somebody a little bit of a thicker book ahead of time, and then when everything goes wrong at the last minute, it's not, I didn't know. And Denise, you do a great job working with our communities, and we appreciate it. So I know you're going to be a great help continue to be a great help for them. Anyone else would like to speak to this? Not seeing any. Do I have a mover on this one?
No, you don't, Your Worship.
May I have a mover on this one? I have Paul Heffer moving.
Sorry, can I just do one more
You
comment?
most certainly can.
I just wanted to be clear to council that I know that they wanted to streamline, so I wasn't coming to council all the time with special events. Because our bylaws ask council for input and approval on many of the processes, that's not really going to happen. But I think that's an okay thing, because council needs to be aware of the special events going on to either attend, support, make reference to in the grocery store. So I just wanted, you're not getting rid of me just by, passing this. Tonight, you're still going to be seeing me quite a lot.
Well, thank you very much for that. I
do
do
have
have a mover.
I will second before.
Okay, and go ahead, Kevin, you had a question?
Yeah, I will this new policy, when it comes into place, will it affect or have governance over historic events and the contracts that we've had with other, I'm just thinking of the Thrashers specifically, where they run their own, kind of their own
Right.
thing. Do they?
They have a totally separate agreement. So their agreement and their lease for the property, I usually haven't worked with them. I have only contacted them the last couple times to help them out through their COVID protocols. But no, they really run their own, and they asked to be a municipally significant event so they could get their special occasion permit. But other than that, historically, all of this information has been given to each event organizer. This just makes it much more user-friendly, clearer, encourages questions, things like that. So nothing really has changed. It's just good formulation and good protocol.
To follow up, then, is there a clause in here then that exempts special occasions for if they have come forward with their own? We're asking one group to follow procedures that we're not asking other groups to. I just was curious about how historically, and if it's not going to recover or replace a policy we already had, if there was a clause in here exempting them from that.
Denise, go ahead.
So in my historical, I've always followed these bylaws and rules. So I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to as making one group and not another.
Well, there's clauses in here for maintaining and cleaning their own washrooms and such, where, in the case of the Thrashers, they use municipal washrooms.
Oh, so sorry.
They don't have to clean them. We have to. I just was wondering what the difference is in some of the.
So those refer to portable potties. and having that contract, that if it is up and above the regular use and maintenance of our existing facilities, that's what they look after. If they have rented the arena staff in Blythe, if that's what you're referring to, or Wingham, still do all the cleaning of the bathrooms. They're responsible for any additional items.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, concerns, or comments? Not seeing any. I do believe I have a mover and a seconder on this one. So I call the motion. All in favor? And it carries. Thank you. 7.6.2, which is a community improvement plan. On this one, again, you've had an opportunity to read it. Any questions for Dimitri? I'm not seeing any questions at all. This is something that we have done before. It's part of our Economic Development Committee strategy. So I'm not, go ahead, Anita, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
just have a quick question. This is one of the first ones since quite a while, isn't it? And how much money is there still available for other people in the community?
Yes. Through you, Reeve, to Councillor Van Hittersum, there will be 30,000 left of the 40,000 in the budget for remaining projects.
Okay, thank you.
And Dimitri, that's for this year, right? There's $30,000.
Yes,
so
for
other people
2022.
can apply if anybody's listening in for upgrades to either, all three of the main streets. Okay, any questions? Not seeing any. I don't think I have movers yet. So can I get a mover?
I will move it, Reeve.
We got a mover. Paul's going to second. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Moving right along, 7.6.3 is Economic Development Service Work Plan Update. Dimitri has a presentation. It's all yours, Dimitri. Dimitri.
So I'm just going to relaunch this here. Okay, thank you, Reeve. This report, or this update, is just, this presentation was taken, the long form was taken to the Economic Development Committee last meeting. So I'm just bringing this version, a shortened version, to all of the councillors tonight, just so you have some idea of what was talked about, and yeah, just an update, a short abridged version of what was presented to the Economic Development Committee. So the purpose of this document, thank you, the purpose of this document, it's just a guiding document for myself, the Economic Development Officer, over the next 2 years, and just so that council and the ACDEV committee was aware of the EDO initiatives that I'll be focusing on. A lot of this was shared with me with our CAO, the draft plan that was brought to council in the past, more informally, and so from that plan, I spent 2 months looking at those initiatives and then adding action items and outcomes to those initiatives. And then that's when I presented it to the ECDEV committee for feedback. And by ECDEV, I mean Economic Development Committee. And so the longer document just has a list of the initiatives, the timeline for all those initiatives, their importance to council based on that original work plan, any budget implications, and the difficulty of each initiative. So this is what the general overview looks like. You'll notice that there are 3 colors for the Gantt chart in the blue. The lightest blue is something that is of low priority, the middle blue is of medium priority, and the dark would be the highest priority. So that would be, networking with other economic development professionals, knowing where the resources are, whether that's Community Futures, whether it's Huron County, whether it's Huron Manufacturing Association. So that would be one. Responding to business inquiries, whether it's commercial, industrial, or residential development. creating a community profile that we can communicate to interested parties when they want to know more about the township, and then the housing and labor force or workforce pieces. So those are the high priorities. You can see also in the red, yellow, and green, I've indicated the priority, difficulty, and cost of each of those initiatives. So an example of what I'm just going to go through a couple slides from the larger presentation just so that you understand the way it was written and put together. So the idea is that at the top part of each slide and each initiative, it goes through when the completion date target is, the priority level, anticipated cost, and then the difficulty. And then it lays out the action items for each initiative. So for this example, this would be business workshops. And you can see the couple action items there. On the bottom of the slide, you'll see the yellow for EDO. You'll see blue. So if the square was in blue, that would be for the community engagement coordinator, Denise. And then if it's in gray, it would be something that both of us would be working on, kind of parsing out our roles. So again, a couple action items for business workshops, and then the outcome, right, to provide businesses with more tools to develop their business. Another example here just showing that in the work plan, it is highlighted when it's something that both myself and the CEC will be working on versus something that we're going to each individually be working on. And then this is an example of something where there'll be a lot of input between both of us, right? So website and social media content. You know, myself maybe putting data together and figures together, and then Denise maybe more on the social media side. So that's just an overview of what the slides look like and for the greater work plan and how it was laid out and what it's trying to communicate. So again, there's 18 items that I went through and did this for with action items and outcomes. And I have, my own comments that weren't provided in that, but just for myself to work through and think about going forward when I presented that presentation earlier to the ECDEV committee. If I were to take those 18 and then condense it into maybe 8, this is what it might look like. So just making it a little smaller and easier to read through each of those. The first one, developing an economic development presence and network. So this means if we want to be in the loop, whether it's Huron County or Invest Ontario or OMAFRA, we want to make sure that when there's opportunities, whether it's commercial, industrial inquiries, they're reaching out to us or myself to ask us what opportunities we have. So by going to meetings, seminars, and letting other communities know or higher level economic development organizations that we have in EDO, it allows us to be a part of those conversations so that we're thought of when there are opportunities. Website communication, tourism, social media strategies, and maintenance. This is just to make sure that we're communicating and marketing to the people that live here, that work here, that visit here, and then also to people that are thinking of doing so in the future. We want to be actively engaging them. Grant funding opportunities. So I'll give you an example. More recently, I met with a company. They're looking to expand their blueprint of their current building. They didn't know that there was grants available. It's going to be a multi-million-dollar expansion, and there's a grant through the Government of Ontario. It's called SWADF, Southwestern Ontario Development Fund, and they're eligible for up to $500,000 through that grant program. They didn't know it existed. They were going to go ahead with the project anyways. So I met with them on a different issue. That came up in the conversation, and now I'm going to be putting them in contact with someone at the province that's going to look into whether or not they're eligible. It looks like they're eligible. So little things like that, right, when you're meeting with businesses, knowing where the funding is and the grant funding opportunities. On the business workshops, I talked about that already. Those will be done in partnership, likely with Huron County and Chamber of Commerce. I've already talked with them briefly on the workshop, so we're looking to get a couple of those by the end of 2022. With regards to housing development, workforce, we've started that process. We do have a labor task force that myself and the CAO are participating in. First point of contact for prospective companies, investors, residents. I'll just give a quick example of how those 5, 6, and 7 tie together. You can call them knock-on effects or chain of events that happen. So myself and Councillor Heffer attended a Sustainable Huron meeting in early June. We so I was new to the job. There I met with some of the Huron County Planning Department. So it was, Denise Van Amersfoort, she's a manager at Huron County Planning. We got talking, we had good conversation that day, and then she invited me to a meeting she was having with some of the local Amish, right? A 5-year, and she was doing the 5-year official plan review. And so if I didn't go to that meeting, we wouldn't have had a presence at that meeting. So I went there, met with them, and understood what their challenges are. They have their own planning challenges regarding to the official plan and the rules and planning regulations. And then from that conversation, we started talking, and some of them are interested in some sort of business directory. Of course, it wouldn't be online, it wouldn't be a digital presence, but some sort of paper brochure to work with them and do that, right? So, and that's a lot of our East Wabanach residents. So from that sustainable Huron meeting that we attended, there was a couple things that came out of it that were positive that, we might have missed out on. And then another example is part of that conversation at Sustainable Huron was there was a presentation by an economist. He's been going around municipalities in Ontario presenting on the population projections and housing projections. And this is going forward till 2041. His name was Mike Moffat. So in part of that presentation, there's a component that's where he talks about and shows statistics for Huron County, and it shows our population growth projections. And so that document now, we met with, today we gave a tour to some investors that were interested in North Huron. Earlier this month, myself, the Reeve, and Deputy Reeve also did that with someone, and we had separate vehicles. Today we had everyone in one vehicle, and we are using information from that Sustainable Huron meeting that we went to on the population projections to show them that North Huron is poised to grow, and that's what's been projected. So from that, we're able to put ourselves in a good position, and these are people that are coming from Kitchener-Waterloo, London, Ontario, the GTA, larger municipalities, and when they meet with us, they expect the same type of service that they get. Unfortunately, even though, we're leaner staff and smaller municipality, they expect the same service that they get at these larger municipalities. So anyhow, I was just trying to tie a couple of those together and some of the recent meetings and how going to these things is important. And it could be the difference between multi-million-dollar investments in the community or not. So, just as an example, this is the tour we took them through, right? We took them through all of the community assets. They wanted to see what North Huron, specifically the Wingham area, had to offer. So we took them through this tour, and then we provided them with some demographic and population statistics, right? And so I've already started on a community profile as part of that work plan, and this is the type of stuff that we want to present people with. So I'm just trying to show, some of the things that this work plan is focusing on and what it's going to look like when it's completed, right? So this is housing statistics. This is all recent, 2021, and some workforce statistics from 2021. So this is what we presented with those people that came and looked at Wingham for investment today. So this is what the work plan is trying to accomplish, is when we have investment opportunities, we present ourselves in a way that really attracts people to the area and to want to invest here. So that's, I think I took a little longer than I wanted to, but that's just what I wanted to present today. Just the work plan and kind of how it's been working in action the last month since I presented it to the Economic Development Committee.
Thank you very much, Dimitri. Questions, comments, concerns for Dimitri? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Through you, Dimitri. It's like flogging a dead horse here with me. Housing, council is going for more of a dense situation and stuff, but if somebody phoned you and they're living in Kitchener, wanting to move up, I want a big lot, I want a big house, what would you say to them?
So through you, Reeve, to Councillor Palmer, I would probably talk with our planning department before committing anything to them, probably get Hannah, and again, that's why it's important for me to be working with people like Denise Van Amersfoort and Hannah, just so that, because I'm not a planner, right, so I can't really make planning promises like that. But I've yet to get any of those calls.
Well, you get one from me.
Yeah.
You know, if I wanted to go here, where would I go? I'm just an example, you know, or do I go somewhere else to the neighbors? You know, because they're building bigger. They have bigger lots available. It just bothers me that we're not, like the county talks about being a little bit diverse, great, but we're not. And I'd like to see us more inclined to that. And of course, it does depend on, say, a developer, whoever buys, say, Haddon Heights, for instance. You know, they're going to come to us with what they want to do, and we're going to say, well, you know, yes or no, or change it if you can, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm just hoping that we can make it available for those folks, because they're going to just go over us, and you know, we don't want to, you know, yes, they're not part of the workforce necessarily, but they're going to live here, they're going to buy things here, shop here, and they're going to become North Huroners, you know, and that's all important. So just keep that in mind, please.
So from the Reeves point of view, if you're willing to pay taxes...
Excuse me?
From the Reeves point of view, if you're willing to pay taxes, I'll find a lot for you. You'd help me, wouldn't you? Sure. Darn right you would. Okay. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thank you. Through you, Reeve. I just want to thank Dimitri for actually bringing a report back that's using 2021 data. We get so many reports here that are from censuses in 2016, and it hasn't taken into any of the considerations of the past 4 years of what we've had to deal with. And it's refreshing to see some fresh data. Thank you.
Anyone else like to comment? Go ahead, Deputy Sipe.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is this is I mean, when I look at the timeline and I look at the priorities, there's not a lot of green in the priority line. And this is an auspicious goal. I mean, this is a really big goal for, in essence, 2 individuals in that department in reality. So, I mean, I like the enthusiasm. I cherish the enthusiasm to bring this type of information to council. The one thing that I will ask, or the one thing I would say is that the one concern I do have about when I read the reports and I looked at the outcomes, it really was more of a yes, no. Not much data to establish where it talks about, when I looked at for example, there was the one where it says an increased online presence. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean there's 100 hits today and we're looking to get 300 hits? I mean, those are the types of feedback and benchmarks that we need to be involved in, not as council, but I think that's going to go back to the education to people to say, are we making progress on economic development in a sense that, because the biggest concern everybody has, and I can tell you this council has said the same thing when we were putting in the economic development officer, was how are we going to make the money back that we're paying in or putting on to this particular role? That has been a question or a comment for the last 2 years. And arguably, it is going to be very difficult as economic development officers to project how much money. You may not save the municipality a dime. But what I can tell you is, your comment about providing an opportunity for a resident or a taxpayer for the ability to get $500,000 in funding, I don't know about you, but that's a big thing. That's a big thing. We may not get anything other than that, other than the expansion and tax money. But those are the benefits of having such people as yourself and Denise on the front lines. And if we don't have that benchmarking information and these kind of success stories throughout the year and not just at 1 year or 2 years, they're going to get lost in all of the extra work that's being done. And I want to suggest, like, I think this is an auspicious goal, and I really appreciate what you're trying to do. But I think we need to make sure that we have that data to support it as well, and not just say, you know, did we have an do we do business report? Yes. Well, that's not enough in my mind from an economic development perspective. We need to provide data and support with that data in order to ensure that we're providing transparency to the public so that they understand what we're putting into this. And yes, we may not get it back in tax savings directly, but we're going to get it back in some other way and providing a better level of service to our ratepayers on a go-forward basis. So that's just my comment, Reva, as it relates to the plan. But I honestly, it is an excellent plan and an excellent goal. And I mean, I am hopefully I hope to be in this chair or on this council chambers when I walk and see that this stuff is going to happen. Because I think it is an auspicious goal, and I think you've done an excellent job.
Anyone else? I just want to pipe up for a second. I want to say that economic development is not an overnight affair. I know a council that struggled for 3.5 years to get water and sewer out to where we can put 135 homes, but we stuck with it, and we're going to do it. I know a council is trying to negotiate with their neighbors who do not want to pay anything, but want us to build a tank, a water siphon tank right here in Wingham, and add 30% to the cost for them when we know we cannot build anymore in Wingham. So why would you put a big tank in if we have to pay for it? We will continue to work with them. In my 3.5 years or 3 years, I've been to many meetings with the CAO, and I've quite often commented to him, don't be afraid to lean on my shoulder because you are overworked. Your plate is too full and this is too important. That's why we have Dimitri. This old man here is not a firecracker he used to be, and neither is it my position to actually be doing that, although I will claim it is the Reeve. Dimitri, we look forward to working with you. Excellent presentation, as the Deputy Reeve said, and exciting times ahead. Thank you. Do we need a motion for that, or anyone?
There is a proposed motion, Your Worship.
Okay. So 7.6.3, do I have a mover for the motion? I have Anita moving, Rick seconding. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. I believe the next one is 8.2 Riverside Apartments. Mr. Sipe and I will have to leave the table.
Your next one is 8.1, the Wingham Minor Hockey Association.
Oh, I do
request.
apologize, sir, and I even heard your speech. 8.1, Wingham Minor Hockey Association request for consideration of October 1st ice installation decision. Would council like to speak to this? Would somebody like to make a motion? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sipe.
I would like to first comment as to the letter, as well as what council has been doing over the past. This has been a moving target. You know, this has been a moving target for many years about, do we put ice in October? Do we put ice in September? Do we keep it up till May? It really has been a moving target. It boils down to usage. And really that's all it always has been. So, I mean, my comment is if staff can come back with, you know, when we made the comment about extending the service, we suggested you have to provide us with 35 hours of ice. I believe it was the number 30, maybe it was 30. 30, 35, it's not really material in the sense of whether it's 30 or 35. But I think we need to understand ourselves as that, and the comments that have been made by staff before is that even at 35, we're losing the municipalities providing a service. We have to recognize that recreation is never going to make you money, ever. And if we think it is, you might as well stop now, because it won't. It never has and never will. However, we do have to recognize that the comments by these associations are real, in the sense that their governing bodies have changed their prospect and their theories and their ways on how they manage or how they are expecting people to provide a service. We have to grow with that as well. So, my thinking is that if we can provide a service that is both beneficial to our ratepayers, but yet making sure that we're not giving things away and having things sit idly empty forever, then I think we need to talk about it. And what I'm saying by that saying is, the conversation is that there's ice that wants to be put in September, and there's ice that potentially wants to stay until May. Okay? My suggestion is the policy right now is very rigid in the sense that it says it comes out and it goes in. My suggestion is to try to make that policy more flexible in the sense of saying, if we want to put the ice in on September the 1st, then we need a commitment by whoever for a number of hours that we deem to be available or necessary in order to be able to provide that service. And I'm throwing dates out here because I don't necessarily know, this is more of a staff conversation, but these are my thoughts in my head, is that if you need to put it in by September 1st and you need to make plans in order to do that, then you need to have an availability of those contracts signed, sealed, and delivered by August 15th, or July 15th or July 30th. I don't know the date. If that's the case, then those flexibilities, then you can be more flexible as this says that, and not every time a request comes, do we now have to sit and analyze whether that's the right answer or the wrong answer. Because right now we're saying if it's September 1st, whether you order 1 hour or 100 hours, it don't matter, it's coming in or it's going out, right? So my thinking is a report potentially comes back from staff with a recommendation that says, as a staff, here's the process where I think we can manage that take in or put out. But council, you tell me the number of hours the commitment that you need to have. And I think we need staff to tell us what is the cost of having 30 hours or 15 hours or 45 hours so that we can make a decision on how many hours is going to be a savings of a cost to the taxpayer. Because again, the ratepayers, if for every hour that thing sits empty, that's not being used, the general taxpayer is paying for that, not the users. Because if it was the users, our ice time per hour would be $4,000 an hour. So that's my thinking, and that's my I've read this, we've had these letters, not even during COVID, but we had these letters for 7 years. Like, we've had these commitments and these issues and wanting to change and wanting ice and not wanting ice. And I think it's because the policy is just too rigid. And I think we need to make some changes to the policy to make it more flexible, but to ensure that these groups, if they really want the ice, then buck up, and here's the commitment that you got to put towards it. And, as ratepayers, if you commit to 30 hours and you got to sub-rent it out to somebody else because you're not going to use it, I personally, as a councillor, don't care, as long as it's being used. That's the biggest concern that we have to have. So, I'll leave it at that, Reeve. That's kind of my, I'll let other councillors make comment to this, and then I do have a motion depending on how I hear the rest of the council's commitments. But that's my comments at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Faulkner was first, then I'm going to go to Anita and then Chris.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Reeve. We only make our recommendations to staff through the information that the council receives. And in the spring, the request for extending the Ironman season came through, and the numbers of hours of operation and availability, the conversation came around to this 30 hours would needed to be done. I find it interesting that the number of hours in the letter from the Armors Association and speaking for the figure skating and such were twice that amount of hours. They were somewhere in the rounds of 75 hours. We can only make our decisions on the numbers that we're given. I'm just curious to why if that was the case back in the spring as well, why our numbers we were getting were that much different than the organizations that have been presented today. I find that we wouldn't have had that problem if we knew there was 75 hours, because we were only asking them for 30. So I'd like a...
Thank you. I'm going to let Vicki speak to that.
Through you, Your Worship. So just to be clear, there's a difference when we're talking 30 hours a week versus 30 hours in a month. And that's probably where some of this difference is coming from in terms of what is needed. I believe in the spring when we reported it was 35 hours per week.
But they're saying they could use 75.
In September, we can. Last April, our hockey was done, and we didn't need ice in April, we were presented with it. But September is our big month to get everybody going.
But you're talking 75 in a month, not a week, right?
In the past,
In
yes.
the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're
So-
talking 31.5 hours just for our association alone,
For the month.
for the week.
For the week, sorry,
Yeah.
So just so we can bring this confusion to an end,
1,200.
are you,
Or
yeah,
1,200.
are you guys talking, you seem to be talking months, 1 minute, and weeks, so let's just all stick to weeks. So if you wanted this, could you tell us how many weeks you would want? Is it 35 hours a week or 35 hours a month?
a week.
A week, okay. Yeah, because I see where the confusion came in. Yeah. So 140 hours a month. Go ahead, Vicki.
Through you, Your Worship. So just leading into this, I did do some calculations and things. This issue is a little bit more than just, it's more than just setting the date and sticking to it kind of thing. So there's a couple things that's coming into play here, and you'll be seeing it on the next agenda, is that we have a staffing issue. We do not have enough staff to operate in September, and we have been trying to recruit, and our recruitment initiatives have been unsuccessful. So there will be a report coming forward at the next meeting regarding that. So just so council's aware of that, we've had a staff member retire, and we've have another one that is on leave, and we had a vacant position that was never filled from last fall, and one prior to that. So we have a staffing issue that we may not be able to do it even if council was to agree to it.
Yes, the real world's all starving for help. Thank you very much.
We are really struggling, Your Worship.
Thank
The
you.
other thing that council should be aware of is start dates and things. So I did do some analysis on the hydro for the facilities and things, just on the arena. If we go with a September 1 start, or, day after Labor Day kind of start date and things, with getting the ice in and maintained if everything was perfect with our employees, our staffing level and everything, the cost of doing that is going to be an additional $35,000
For,
to start the ice the day, have the ice up and ready to go the day after Labor Day,
okay, so you're adding $35,000 to your budget.
that we have not budgeted for. And that's strictly based on hydro. So I have the hydro numbers from 2019, 2021. And we did do the staggering of the ice in dates and things based on COVID and staffing levels, because if you recall, I had a staffing issue last fall and could not get the ice in until we got some staff up and going. So I do have those numbers, and I can put it in a report for council and for everyone else to see and things, so that you can make a informed decision.
Anyone else? Paul, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Reeve. I just wonder,
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul, just a second. I forgot I had two ahead. I do apologize. Go ahead, Anita.
No, Vicky answered a lot of my questions already.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Vicky, through you. Vicky, I'm not sure, and our attendees there, are we talking both arenas?
We're just speaking on behalf of Wayne.
Just West Cast? Okay, and 35,000 only for West Cast?
That's correct.
The Blythe Arena, is that coming into play at all as far as requests to fire up early?
No, so the Blythe facility, the first date of ice that they always start their ice on October 1st.
No questions, okay.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, Paul.
yes, through you, Reeve. Yes, more to Vicky. I was wondering, you said 35,000 for the month of September. I'm just curious, in your report, would you be able to bring forward what it would cost if it started the 17th? That's 2 weeks, and I feel 2 weeks, kids can let some land training before and whatnot, but 2 weeks should be able to get a lot of people in and get their skates in that they want. And just reading some of the numbers that U11 were presenting with you, I just thought, I'm just wondering how these places that don't get their ice in October, how they're going to go. Like, to me, those are big city numbers that are coming to us where they can go, okay, down the street to another arena where they have ice in. But for a small rural area, I think we have to look at a bit broader picture and open the avenues up a bit more of, let's go for half the time. What would that do? I'm just wondering if that could be brought to us in a report before we make decisions.
If that's, through your worship, if that's council's direction.
Yeah, two different, not just one. Right. Go ahead, Kevin.
I'm just curious, is there a different reasoning behind for the skaters in one part of our township versus the skaters in the other, as far as who gets the development and who doesn't?
I would let either of the gentlemen there answer that, or Vicky. Vicky, we're going to start with you. You had your hand up.
Through your worship, if they can answer that, that's fine. I know that the Blythe Brussels Arena does not have ice until the beginning of October as well, and that their Blythe Brussels minor hockey does share the use between the Blythe facility and the Brussels facility. So I'm not sure if they're going to facilities outside of the area or what to do that. I don't know if they can shed any light on that.
Yeah, it was in reference to the OMHA changing the schedule for the kids.
That's Hockey Canada.
Hockey Canada, so that should be across the board, shouldn't it?
That's across the board, it is. I do know like some smaller centers, like East Howard, for example, they rent Palmerston for the month of September. What Blythe Brussels does, I don't know what they do, but they're two joint centers together where we're still just Wingham, right? We're just working on our own, so for just being a sole organization, our numbers have improved. Like, we've got 30 new kids this year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's 3 teams, right? So that's more ice time that we need to get kids going. Yeah, I would think it's just because we're our own organization with a big number of kids for our size. It's a benefit for us, and that's why we like to have the ice in for the 6th of September.
But OMHA, are they requesting that you, or demanding that you start earlier?
Nope, it's just the WA starts their season 1st of October. So if we don't start ice till 1st of October, our teams aren't made until mid-October, and we're already behind other centers that are renting ice elsewhere. Like, we can rent ice elsewhere probably cheaper, to be quite honest with you. But we like to obviously do it in Wingham because people buy their Tim Hortons here and come to their game. You know what I'm saying? It just puts us behind as an organization. And speaking on that Wingham Ironman, I can't fathom they'd be real happy to, I don't know where they would go, because Bristol's booked, right, for a junior team.
No, my comment was just that the Blythe Arena has a Tim Hortons too, and people love to go there, but if one's going to start earlier and get a better head start at it,
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Kevin. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. Yeah, hockey is important to our area. My kids went through it, and figure skating, and yes, it's a service, and we don't necessarily make any money. No, we don't make any money off it, but it's a service to our community, all the people that participate, all the people that watch these games. And I think okay, it's 35,000 for a full month ahead. I'm really leaning towards cutting half, try and give them mid-month, and hoping that they can work around it. They've got the numbers of hours that are above what Vicky suggested we need to start with anyway. So, those things are positive, and I think it's helping everybody involved. And yes, it will cost us 18,000, 16,000, but we'll get a payback from the hours of usage as well. So that's my leaning right now.
Thank you. Anita?
Yeah, I would propose for Vicky to make a report, because we can deal out all kinds of hours. If we don't have the people to run the arenas, then we're stuck. We can't do anything.
Kevin?
Through you, I don't see there'd be much savings, and I would like to know the justification between doing it in one arena and not in the other.
I'm going to, Vicky wants to speak to that, and then I'm going to speak to it.
Through your worship, just commenting on Councillor Faulkner's comment there, and just reminding council that the direction was at the beginning of the year, prior to the Ironman coming forward. Actually, it started last year during the master plan process, and then in December, council directed staff to bring back recommendations, like the short-term recommendations, to start with for the implementation of the master plan. And what staff were recommended to do back in January was to align the start dates between Blythe and Wingham. That was council's direction.
Thank you.
So that's what we were proceeding with, and the budget is based off of that.
Thank you. So I'm going to touch a bit on the budget. And as everybody knows, they're not going to want to hear me say this. When it comes to recreation, we are surrounded by Morris Turnberry, have been for a life. Their folks, they have the same population as we do in North Huron. They're supposed to help with the facilities that we own, the upkeep and the cost of it. Over the last 3 or 4 years, I believe they have reduced the amount they pay us by about $100,000 in the 4 years. And again, I might be out on my figures, but at one time we could pretty well count on $90,000 or $97,000 a year from them to help support the facilities that do just as you folks are asking. We have lost $100,000, and we can get the proper numbers if you want, but over the last 3 or 4 years because of squabbling. They were upset that we were going to charge their users 1.5 times when they took the $100,000 away, and we backed off on the $100,000. They have the same population as we do. North Huron cannot afford to supply everything to everybody. You need to go to those town halls too, and you need to ask for support, and I'm very serious about this. Because it's okay for us to wave a magic wand and say it's $35,000 or $18,000 and we'll gladly pay, but we've already lost $100,000. They will not pay for the water. They will not pay for the sewer. We understand. And if we could get away, this council get away with paying nothing and using the facilities, we would, but we can't. We own the facilities. The greater communities put those facilities up together. We did it together as a team. We volunteered. We put our own personal money into it. But we need to continue to run them the same way. You cannot expect North Huron. Never ask me why North Huron has the highest tax excursions. You're going to hear the same thing every time. It's not because we have 3 arenas. It's because we pay the bills for 3 arenas. So I don't know what we're going to decide here tonight. I'm going to presume we're going to ask for a report to come back, and the report has to keep in mind our budget, because we can't, again, don't get to the edge of the budget and tell me we're $45,000 out because we gave something to another community. Nobody is against hockey. Nobody is against children. Nobody is against swimmers. What we're against is paying so much taxes. It's the highest taxes in Huron County because we give things away. And there's a fine line between being a friend and a sucker. And we went from friendship to sucker. They've got to start paying or build their own tank, build their own fire department, build their own arenas, get their own, I don't care what they get. stop using ours then, because we're tired of paying for it. They don't need to wear ours out. Sorry I went off on a bit of a rant on a different subject altogether, but I'm sure my council was expecting it. Having said that, Trevor, you wanted to say something.
So one of the problems that we have is, over the past 4 years, this policy has come back to this council 4 times. 4 times. The policy is too rigid. We need to change the policy, and whether that policy aligns both Wingham and Blythe, that's fine. I'm happy with aligning them. I'm not against that. Everything we have done is based on request. So the reason why we haven't made name changes to Blythe is because nobody's requested it. They're happy with Blythe Brussels to do their organization and make their way how they want to do it. That is one of the issues that you have when you have associations that have commingling municipalities, because they all have their own way of doing things. And yes, Wingham has their own association, and I agree. They've maintained their existing association, and they're in Wingham, and they're part of North Huron. Blythe is as well. But Blythe also has to deal with Huron East, potentially, and Morris Turnberry, and a whole bunch of other things as it relates to that. But our policy is too rigid. We should not have to keep coming back here every time there's a request. We should develop that policy in the sense that if we're accepting, if council of the day is accepting of providing recreation at a little bit of a benefit to support, or a little bit of a risk to support the development of our children in sports, then let's determine what that is and not make it so rigid so that staff can say and go, yeah, here it is. Associations, you have till this date to provide me with this amount of ice usage. If you can do that, we'll put it in. And I'm using this caveat because if we don't have staff, that trumps all. You can't put ice in if you don't have staff. But barring the fact that we have staff, it should not, we determine the policy. Staff follow the policy. So we need to determine the policy so that it isn't so rigid, so that staff can at least have a discussion with these groups as to know what we can afford from a budget perspective, what they could use at the maybe not the minimum, but maybe not the maximum at the point of where they have to come in. We need to have this policy so that it's more flexible for everybody. Not only the municipality, but these associated groups. So this is my recommendation. My recommendation is that the Director of Recreation Facilities comes back with a report that adjusts, that provides a recommendation for a change in the policy equivalent to both Wingham and Blythe, no distinction, Wingham and Blythe, that associates with how many hours we could live with, that council can determine, so that report will have to tell us what 30 hours is, what 15 hours is, what 45 hours is a week, so that council then can decide. Is it going to be, it doesn't have to be a date then. It can be just, you have to, the start date won't be anywhere before September 1st. We know that. Or May, but at least then the policy can be reviewed, and then staff can take that policy and make it based on cost and flexibility, as opposed to this rigid line, and every time some team goes into May, well, now we've got to try to figure out how we're going to support them. And when Hockey Canada changed the rules, now we got to change our policy and how to affect. So I mean, if we make ours less rigid, then if they want to pay up to that, even if they maybe can't get that, then we can keep it in. That's going to be the determining factor. Ice time availability, not availability, it's going to be ice time utilization. How much utilization can the municipality afford? Because that's really the ultimate discussion here.
Did you get a motion out of that?
Bear with me here. So Deputy Reeve Sipe, feel free to correct me if this isn't what you're looking for, but something along the lines that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby directs for the Director of Recreation and Community Services to prepare a staff report that provides a recommendation for a change in the ice installation policy that is equal for both Wingham and Blythe arenas, and that incorporates the number of ice utilization hours that is viable for the township.
We good?
I just want to ask, the director, is that clear for her?
Through you, your worship, yes, it is.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kevin? We're good?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns, or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. When Deputy Reeve Sipe mentioned equal between Blythe and Wingham, we should go by historical a little bit, or you need, like, why make Blythe September 1st or September 15th when there's nobody but Councillor Faulkner to skate around? If there's a request, yes. Anybody wanting it, like, have it available, obviously, to need. So that catches everything right there. With a minimum, like we don't want to go before September 1st or whatever our director suggests. But I don't think we can just say, okay, Westcast is going to be, this year is going to be September 15th. And we'll make Blythe September 15th too, what the heck? But there's nobody wanting it. Not yet, anyways, maybe later, but not yet.
If I can just address that, I do believe what he meant was that don't just do Wingham, do them both so it's available for both. They don't have to both start together, but if somebody came forward from the Blythe area, we'd say, yes, we could do that because it's in the policy and we're not fighting the policy anymore. So the policy would be equal for both. The start dates would not. If there's not enough finance and volume there.
Yeah, what my thinking is not, the date's only there for the when it would potentially open. Everything opening would be based on signed contract, you have it, you want it, you get it. Not this, well, maybe, I don't know, you put it in, they will come. That's not the way, that's not my intent. My intent is, if an association wants the ice surface to be in, this policy should say, and they should know, that if you want it in between September the 1st and September the 15th, that you have, I'm using a guess, you have to commit to whatever council says, whether that's 20 hours a week, whether that's 70 hours a week. I don't know the number. All I'm saying is, if they don't commit to that, it doesn't open until October 1st. That's the intention of me, to make it more flexible so that everybody knows what is required of them as an association, and staff know that if we've got signed contracts for availability in the association, then yep, plug her in and let's get her going. That's the intent.
Fine.
So the one thing I would like to add, Vicky, before we go for the motion, we don't want to base this on an employee or two not being here. We want to base this on a 10-year scale. So if we get to the point where they request it and you don't have employees and they can't have anybody jump in and help you, then they'll understand that. They'll understand. We don't have the people, it's not safe to play, that's all there is to it. So I would like to see the policy as a long-term policy, not just because of this year we don't have staff, because in 3 years it could be the other way around, we could have lots of staff. Okay?
Yes, sir.
And just for clarity, Vicky's staffing levels report will be independent of an update to this policy report.
Yes, correct. Totally understandable, thank you. Yep. Okay, so I have a mover, I have a seconder. Any more questions, comments, concerns? Not seeing any, I call a motion. All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Okay, now, we're going to go to 8.2, and at this time,
Yeah, so if I may, your worship, in light of the pecuniary interest declared by Reeve Bailey and Deputy Reeve Sipe, I'm looking for a councillor to chair agenda item 8.2. So Councillor Falconer?
I could chair it. I've chaired this committee before, or this appointment before.
So then, looking for a motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby appoints Councillor Falconer to chair agenda item 8.2.
Yeah, I can do that.
So Councillor Van Herson moves that,
Second.
and Councillor Heffer seconds. All in favor? Carries. So Councillor Falconer, if you want to assume the chair.
Thank you. Councilors, you've all had an opportunity to read the request for the reduction in development charges and building permits according to the 8.2. I'll open it up to conversations from the councilors as to your thoughts on this process. We all know that, we've had quite a bit of conversation about this project for the last 2 or 3 years. So it's a request coming through. I imagine staff is looking for recommendations as to how to go forward with it, whether that be any amendments to the existing policy or just for taking this letter for information purposes. So go ahead.
Yeah,
Mr. Palmer?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. This first letter that we received from Riverside Apartments, it left me wondering what the heck, what? Because I knew the figures were off. So getting the email from our CAO just a bit ago, that helped, because I was going to fly off the handle about the development charges being too low. What happened? I feel that this is business for anyone that's a developer, and everybody faces it, and anywhere. And I feel that it's in a very expensive deal or development that they're going with. The figures that we have mentioned here are, I hate to say it, but peanuts to whatever millions it is the cost of it. So, and the other thing is, if we said, sure, we'll cut some off or defer, or we'll do something, payment plan, we'll have everybody doing that, and we just can't. We cannot set a precedence with this. This is important. I remember when we were discussing development charges and that we have a need for them. It pays for our infrastructure to roll into these places. Heavens, with here, we have a $300,000 upgrade. Well, if we went with this request, it wouldn't even pay for that. So, no, I feel that we changed, we brought them down to the 3-story, but we made it totally available for them to make a very large fill in the footprint. They got all the apartments that they originally had. I know it's changed, size-wise it's different, but still, they got their apartment numbers. So we've done the best we can, and I feel that, no, we just take the charges, accept the charges as we request.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Councillor McBurney.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My concern would be us setting a precedence that I'm not sure we should be. Secondly, our concern should be to the taxpayers. We don't want no extra costs going to the taxpayers. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. McBurney. Any other comments by council? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I know our CEO and clerk are busy enough doing things. I feel this would happen with every building thing that would be going on, whether small or large. I feel it set a precedent. It was mentioned by the 2 other councilors there, and I cannot go with this. I feel we have to be upfront and go forward with this, and thank you very much.
Thank you. If no one else, a comment I would like to make on it kind of echoes all of your responses. It took us a good 2.5 years to get our economic development in line, with other communities. We're not asking more than any other expanding community around us. So it's not an undue, I don't find it's an undue request for infrastructure to pay for development. So, yeah, I'm much in the same favor as everyone else. So, I don't know if anyone has a motion that they'd like to put forward for recommendation on this letter of how to deal with it. I can put.
Do we need a motion? Can we just accept it as?
Well, we can just make motion to accept it as information purposes.
Yeah, I think you would want to make a determination one way or the other. So, I guess what I'm hearing is council wants to uphold the fees. So if that's the case, you'd be looking for a motion that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby receives the request from Riverside Apartments, Inc. and requires the requesters to pay the full amounts for building permit fees and development charges.
Do I have a motion? Someone to put that motion? Mr. Heffer, Councilor Heffer will put that as much. So I have a seconder. I have Mr. Palmer. All in favor? Carries unanimous.
So Reed,
Okay, I'll return it back.
to resume the chair again.
Thank you very much, Councillor Faulkner, for taking over. Okay, now we're going to go to the Reed's activity report. With COVID seemingly slowing down, things are picking up. We have the theater in Blythe opening up. I think it's the 7th. I have to say a speech over there, and we're going to have our first play in the open amphitheater, I believe it's called. I believe there's going to be on the, and I didn't bring my list with me, on the 23rd or something, and maybe Anita could help me with this. There's going to be a walk-in clinic for your further shots for COVID. I think it should be on our site, actually. I believe there's some information on our site somewhere on that one. I believe it's 23rd down at the West Cass Complex. That's about it for me. So I'm just going to pass it on. And council member reports, verbal or written. I also wanted to mention the fire department. I wanted to mention that we had the grand opening for the fire department in Blythe. It was a good turnout. We give many, many awards out because we were catching up for 3 years of not giving awards out for longevity and achievements. It was a very fun 3 or 4 hours. I enjoyed it a lot. Good few laughs. People have a good sense of humor. And they'll all listen to me without booing for a change. So that was a lot of fun. The cross-border, there's been some conversation in the paper. Again, I'm not going to speak to that tonight. We're just going to let that play out a little further. We'll see what comes forth and have a conversation. But I think I made myself pretty clear earlier tonight just how I feel about giving anything away. Okay. And we're going to go now to councilors. Councilor members' reports. Does anybody have, sitting on a committee they'd like to talk to? Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, through you, Reeve. With Alice Munro Festival of Short Stories, they had the wrap-up, and it worked really well for them. They were able to stay in the black, and the biggest highlight they thought, well, besides the readings they had here, and was the virtual that they had with the kids. They had over 1,200 through the different schools, and the virtual really works well. Getting them involved and whatnot, and the beauty of it is the authors love that. It just opened up another avenue instead of driving to one school here and then to another. Like doing it on virtual, they have it's a real good, and the teachers are so equipped at working that out with the kids now. So that was a real win-win for that. Thank you, Reeve.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Deputy Reeve Site.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve. I just wanted to make mention as it relates to the Wingham Community Connectors. They are still meeting. They're still meeting through, I think their next meeting is in August, to finalize the preparations for the volunteer fair that it's expected to be on September 11th from 1 till 4 at the Knights of Columbus Hall. So that's there is the hope to have at least 30 30 tables. There still is going to be some finalization of those numbers, but I mean, I think from what I've seen, as volunteerism is in a decline, I think this is a great opportunity for, not only long-standing residents of North Huron, but also newcomers to the municipality to, see potentially what we have to offer and what they can put their hand in. So I mean, it's and it is in conjunction with the United Way and the hopefully the opening or the grand opening. I don't think it'll be the grand opening, but it'll be at least the unveiling of the Connection Center. So I mean, that is going to be a good news story come in September. So I just wanted to make sure and relay on that.
Thank you very kindly. Anyone else? Not seeing any hands, we'll move on. Just comments by members. Anyone like to have a comment on something? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Reeve.
You're welcome.
You're going to regret asking me. I just want to correct you on one point. I don't want to give things away either, but we did receive, correct me if I'm wrong, we did receive a tidy check from Morris Turnberry at the beginning of the year, did we not?
If I may, Your Worship, to answer Councillor Palmer's question, so that this process, we put out requests for support for our recreational facilities to all the neighboring municipalities. We did receive funds back from Morris Turnberry. I believe the amount was half or a little over half of what the requested amount was, but it was still 120,000, I want to say, but don't read too much into those numbers because I don't have it in front of me, but we did receive funds for sure.
Thank you, Clerk Carson. Yeah, it was just a point to make, and I'm very pleased that they did that. It gave us something. The other thing I'd like to say, all of us face ridicule, what have you, from the papers and elsewhere. And I was reading something from the last one, and you kind of want to laugh, but it does hurt. So I'd like to just keep it simple. I got tons to say, but I'm going to keep it super simple and short. Just when people criticize you, at least have it accurate. That's what I'm really tired of. Lies or innuendo, or they just have the whole story wrong. Like, that sucks. So have it accurate out there, you people. And the other one is, you, through Canadian Charter of Rights, have the right for free speech. Well, so do I. So do you. So do all the rest of us. We have the right to speech, to say our comment, to comment on something, as everyone else does. So to be trashed because your comment doesn't fit their mold or their narrative, that kind of sucks. And we see it in the States. It's serious in the States. And it's sad that it's encroaching on us here in Canada. So, they can, if they want to criticize, talk to me. Phone me up. Come to my house. I don't care, and we'll talk. And that applies to everybody, I'm sure. So I've been wanting to say this for a while, and I thank you very much, Reeve. We'll just go from there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments? We're going to go ahead, Deputy Reeve Sight.
Yeah, I just want to make mention of the the wonderful event that we had on July the 1st here, and thank you to the Deputy Chief Chad Krieger and his group for the fireworks display that was put on. I have seen a lot of fireworks displays in the town of Wingham in my 15 years that I've lived here. And, great that we haven't had it for so many years. And, you'll kind of lose that understanding of what it takes to put such an event on. I have to admit that was probably the best fireworks display that this municipality has had in my at least 15 years living in this municipality and coming here, when I didn't live in this municipality, because this is where they were. I mean, this is where, to drive into the municipality after picking up my children in Hanover to quickly get them back to this municipality to have that fireworks. I was amazed of the amount of people that were in the municipality, walking, trying to find a place, being supportive of each other. It was a sight that I have missed for 3 years, in the sense of being patriotic, being, just being able to understand that, the pandemic, yes, everybody's going to say it's not over, and you still hear it. But you would not think, by the crowd that was there on Friday, that this was an issue in this municipality. Because I think ultimately, there's not very many events in North Huron that brings an entire community together. And I would argue that one is one that probably brings more people together that not necessarily are residents of North Huron, but are Huron County residents. And I mean, I think ultimately that is a game changer for us. And I mean, the support that the Firemen's Association does for that day, that's a big day. Like you don't just start at 6 o'clock in the evening and finish at 10. Like, that's 6 in the morning until probably 10 or 11 at night, maybe even midnight or longer. So, I mean, it goes without saying, and I've said this more and more and more, there are people in this community, not only the firemen, but other volunteers in our community, that provide a significant amount of services to us that I think sometimes go unnoticed and go unaccepted. And I just want to say that that's the type of stuff that, we need to start talking about more in comments by members. Because listen to the fact that we have in the 2 comments, which I agree with. I don't disagree with the comments made by Councillor Palmer and the Reeve. I don't disagree. It is very frustrating. However, we are in a democracy, and again, as much as when I became a municipal councillor, I have been a target for many, many years. And I'm okay with that. Because the fact of the matter is, what I have said is, if somebody doesn't disagree with me or doesn't agree with what I'm saying, that's okay. But we need to understand and respect each other. We've had a lot of disagreements on this table, but we all go home with the respect that we all each other deserve. We are elected officials, which comes with the baggage, which comes with the other stuff that nobody wants to talk about. And when you talk about a municipal council, there isn't a whole lot of lineups to be one of us. Okay? There isn't. So, I respect the fact that we have our service groups and those volunteers, because those volunteers get crapped on just as much as we do. Because somebody doesn't like what they're doing, or somebody doesn't do this, or somebody doesn't do that. You're not going to get away with it. You're not going to get away with not having that part of this, because there's always going to be somebody that has an opinion, and there's always going to be that person that doesn't want to respect the fact of what's going on. So, I mean, ultimately, those are my comments, Reeve. I have been a municipal councillor for 7 years. I've sat here, listened to a lot of people criticize this council and this staff. And I've heard a lot of people criticize what we couldn't do. If we gave them $1 million, they'd wonder why they didn't get $1.1 million. So, arguably, we can't change people's opinion. But what we can do is change the facts and make sure we express what the facts are, and make sure it's clear to the taxpayer what we're doing, and as being as transparent as possible. Those are the things we can change. Don't worry about the things you can't. So that's my comments, Reeve, and I just wanted to mention those comments, because I think ultimately, we as a municipality are on the cusp of huge potential, and I think the staff are doing an excellent job in order to try to get us to that point, with the point that we don't have a lot of staff. We're no different than any other company. So I want to just say thank you again. I'm probably the voice of always the voice that comes and says this every time, but I do appreciate everything that staff does and other counselors and the CAO and the clerk, because you know what, we are doing the best that we can with the information that we're presented, and the best thing that we can do is that every 4 years, everybody has their choice. Everybody has their choice about who sits in these tables. So that's the comment that we have, and I respect for that, and I'll send it back to you, Reeve.
Here, here. I believe Paul had his hand up, and then Anita.
Thank you, Reeve. I'd just like to say kudos to the fire hall, the opening down there at the PW Works, but at the fire hall, you know, you're pretty proud when you see those guys coming up with their uniforms on. Like, I saw the Reeve handing out a lot of recognitions, service awards, and it was really good. And the best thing I like about it all, with you hear what's going on, they have more firemen right now. That's they're doing something right. I love that. And it just makes you feel quite safe, whether you're in an accident or whatever, you'll be able to rely on them. And with the fireworks, it was awesome. But I had a person beside me say, they've never seen fireworks like this even down in Disney. So kudos to, I'm not sure if Chad's still there. They sure picked the right explosives, however you do it. Did a good job. It's very much appreciated.
Scientific procedure, you wouldn't understand.
You worked on your throwing arm all winter, so you can throw them higher.
Thank you, Reeve.
Thank you, Paul. Anita, did you want something?
Yes, thank you very much, Reeve Bailey. I would like to, in honor of some volunteers, Joyce Johnston was the operational manager for the North Huron Food Share for 18 years, and she's retiring. I think that needs a little bit of recognition. I think it's wonderful to do something like that. And also the people from the hockey organization that are here. We don't always agree, and we have a lot of issues going on, but they are volunteers and they stand up for what they think it's necessary for their community. I also would like to say that July 14, there will be a celebration of the finalization of the Scott Drain project at the in East Wampanoag. The Scott family in Maitland Valley and surrounding landowners are having a little bit of a get-together and opening ceremony or to celebrate that.
And I want to thank you for stepping in and taking care of that for us, because both myself and the Deputy Reeve were not available that day. We'd love to be there, but we just simply, COVID's gone away apparently, and the calendar's filling up.
Yeah.
Now for Joyce, did you want us to send a letter from the town? She has served, I believe it was 22 years at the food share. Did we want to thank her as a volunteer? And that's just...
I think that's a really nice gesture. I'm always really afraid that I'm forgetting people that are doing lots of things in the community, and
Yep, all together we'll try to remember. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, sorry, Reeve, I forgot one thing. I was asked to welcome the Public Works people from Huron County and the local municipalities for backing up snowplows. I didn't think it could be that difficult, but boy, oh boy. It was awesome watching those guys doing it, and one of our own workers got second place, I think it was. Yeah, second place. So he's going to be going to Napanee representing us, and he's out of the Public Works, I believe, in Blythe. I'm not sure of his name, but I saw him. He's got a sort of reddish beard, but I'm sorry I don't have his name, but it was competition, because I'll tell you, each one of those guys getting into that truck, you know, they meant business. They wanted to win, and it was just great seeing them, and they really appreciated coming to North Huron. They really liked the place there at West Cast for doing their demos, and in 2023 they're having the All Ontario thing in Huron County, and we'll be one of the places to look at, I'm sure, so it's really good.
Thank you very much, Paul. Anyone else? Not seeing any hands. Do we have notice of motion? Don't see one on the table. Bylaws. Bylaw number 69-2022, agreement for service with the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. Do I have a mover? Anita moves, Chris seconds, all in favor? Carries. Bylaw number 70-2022, adoption of asset management plan. Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving, seconder please. Rick seconds, all in favor? Carries, thank you. Bylaw number 71-2022, project contribution agreement with Regional Tourism Ontario 4 Inc. Do I have a mover? I have Kevin moving, seconder please. Rick seconds, sorry. All in favor? Carries.
So your next bylaw, your worship, so I'm looking for a different motion. That would read that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby defers bylaw number 72-2022 as a result of the motion adopted as part of agenda item 7.5.1.
Do I have a mover?
So move.
Trevor moves, Kevin seconds, all in favor? Carries. Announcements. The next regular council meeting will be held on Monday, July 18th, 2022 at 6 p.m. at the North Huron Town Hall Theaters. A special council meeting will be held on Monday, July 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the North Huron Town Hall Theater. The next Economic Development and Recovery Committee meeting will be held on Thursday, July 21st, 2022 at 2 p.m. in North Huron Town Hall Theater. The next Wingham BIA Board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 18th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. in the Hot Stove Lounge at the North Huron Westcast Community Complex. The next Blythe BIA Board meeting will be held on Thursday, August 25th, 2022 at 8 a.m. at the Blythe District Community Center. Other business? We have none tonight. There's no closed session reporting out. Confirmation of the bylaw number 73-2022, confirmatory bylaw. Do I have a mover? I have Chris moving, I have Rick seconding, all in favor? Carries. Adjournment, the Council of Township of North Huron agrees being no further business before council, the meeting hereby adjourns at
7:42 p.m.
7:42 p.m. Do I have a mover? I have Paul moving, Kevin seconding, all in favor? Carries. Thank you. Have a safe and good night, everyone.